bring in Curtis Ellis. He's a policy director with America First Policies, who served as a senior policy advisor to President Trump's 2016 campaign and his transition team. And Stephen Kent is the spokesperson for Young Voices and an entertainment contributor to the Washington Examiner. He joins us from North Carolina tonight. Thank you both for being with us. Kent, I'd like to start with you. China being such a huge market for the NBA, it's clearly not afraid to flex its economic might here, and the NBA is cowering accordingly. What do you make of all of this?
Yeah, well, it is the evidence of a deal very much gone wrong in the American conscious and business community about what being closer to China would mean. Going back to 1999 in the Clinton administration, there's been an idea that globalization was going to bring China into the fold of the West and very much democratize that country. But in reality, very much the opposite has happened, where China has globalized and they have been able to export censorship and export modern forms of autocracy to the Western world. And we see this play out both in Hollywood and here with the NBA. It's really a bad sign what the NBA is doing here, but it's nice to see bipartisan unity from Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke on this issue.
Curtis, the focus in the U.S. has been on the NBA, and certainly a lot to criticize in terms of the hypocrisy of its response, especially how it's more woke, if you will, on other issues. But shouldn't the bigger focus, to Stephen's point, be on China and the way it retaliates against criticism and the danger of doing business with China, dangers that the Trump administration has been trying to get the United States to wake up to and realize?
Yes, absolutely, Michelle. President Trump is the first one to really wake up America, wake up the elites to the dangers of China. They are not becoming more democratic. We just saw a big parade with missiles aimed at the United States. And as Kent said, they're now exporting surveillance technology. They're exporting techno-surveillance totalitarianism. And every dollar that we spend in aisle 6 of Walmart that goes to China is funding that horrific regime, which is harvesting the organs from living people.
So we're getting rare bipartisan support in terms of criticizing the NBA, Curtis. Does this perhaps indicate more of a shift towards supporting the Trump administration when it comes to China? We do know that the Trump administration has been the first to really confront and flag the threat of China. There's been Democratic resistance to that, but they do seem to be coming around. Is this a sign that they are coming around more and more to support the president on this?
And not a moment too soon. There was an old saying, politics stops at the water's edge. For too long, we've been seeing this Washington establishment groupthink that if Trump is for it, we're against it. Finally now, maybe we're seeing some unanimity and some unity to face the external threat, which China is. It's a very big external threat.
All right, Steve, the NBA angle has made this issue the topic du jour in the U.S. It's at least raised the profile of these Hong Kong protesters. Perhaps not that many Americans were actually aware of what was going on in Hong Kong, but the fact that you've got some big basketball stars now tweeting about it, pointing it out, this whole controversy has put more of a spotlight on that issue. So what should the U.S. be doing about the Hong Kong protests?
Well, the U.S. needs to obviously stand in solidarity with Hong Kongers, uniformly. And I think that you see that across the left and the right in American politics. And to the credit of the other guests, I mean, Donald Trump has definitely been raising a certain amount of awareness on the bad, sort of bad faith politics of China, but there's
Stephen,
something.
He hasn't been that vocal about these protests. In fact, some was saying that the president has been intentionally not vocal about this because he's pushing the economic agenda, that he wants to get a trade deal done, and that's why he's not raising the concerns of the Hong Kong protesters.
Yeah, well, China's a bad actor, and I've always been of the mind that Donald Trump is focusing on the wrong thing and a sort of a zero-sum politics of trade. China and the United States have both become objectively richer and have eliminated more poverty in partnership on trade than we would have been able to apart. But what here is being highlighted is sort of a soullessness of the capitalist mindset that is existent in the United States today, that you don't have to stand for anything, right? But what you have with the NBA is sort of a double standard, where they came into my state here in North Carolina and pressured the Republican legislature to back off on a transgender bathroom bill. and made them draw concessions from their law, or they would pull their tournament out of the state. But they're not willing to do this when it comes to seeking eyeballs and new viewers in China. Turns out Comedy Central and South Park have more courage than they do in taking a stand against China and getting completely banned from China in the past 48 hours for a recent episode critiquing China for just this.
Curtis, very quickly, what does this mean for the NBA? Because you can't ignore the hypocrisy.
I think we're finally going to see some popular outrage about American businesses that are willing to do business with a totalitarian regime. And the NBA maybe will get woke on this issue.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. Kent, Curtis, please stick around.